You're listening to the Successors podcast with Kara Oosterhuis on RealAgriculture.com.
Okay, folks, it's time for episode 2 of the Successors podcast. I'm your host, Kara Oosterhuis, and I'm so excited to bring you the best and brightest of the next generation of agriculture. Those of us that have only been in the industry for less than a couple of decades. I'm not going to give you the full spiel again on what the Successors is, so if you'd like a bit of a recap, go ahead and check out episode 1, which you can find wherever you get your podcasts. Just search the Successors and you'll be able to find it. So be sure to tune into that one. But I'm going to get into today's guest here. Today's guest is Sarah Jackson. Sarah is an only child and has been actively running the family farm since quite a young age and has had to learn some different things than most of us have to do at, say, the age of 17, some decision-making items, as well as having to develop a leadership style, some difficulties on farm, and some of the joys she gets to experience every day, and what it's like to balance family life and everything on the farm. Without further ado, Sarah, how is it going?
It is very good. Very warm, but very good.
Absolutely. Where are you located?
We are located just outside of Camlachie, Ontario, in Lambton County.
Yeah, it is warm. I know we're kind of looking, right now we're focusing on kind of the heat wave across Western Canada, but man, oh man, I think across the board we are hot right now.
Absolutely. It's definitely, it's taking a toll on employees and everyone, so we kind of quit early today and we'll start back up early again tomorrow, and, you know, just those kind of management decisions are things. Livestock is one thing, but I mean, overheating employees, that can take them out for days, right? So that's something that we really try and keep an eye on.
Oh, totally. I know it's that time of the year when, like, I often get up early and do work, but it seems like you're now getting up extra early to just get things done before it's too unbearable. But I've become a bit of a complainer, too, when it gets over that 30 degrees. It's like, no, thanks.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, there's certain things that have to get done, but there's some things that you can leave for a cooler day, so we really try to do that.
So tell me a bit about your operation right now. What sorts of things do you have going on?
So right now, I guess on our kind of farming enterprise, we have two different things going on. So with my mother and, of course, with my husband as well, my mother and I own a game bird operation. So we have a hatchery on farm, our own breeding flocks. So this time of year, we're just kind of wrapping up on hatching, but we do have a lot of 6-week-old poults going out. So my husband Jeff has been going out to New Brunswick and Quebec a lot over the past little bit, delivering pheasants to our customers. So that's been really kind of busy trying to juggle through the heat, and we've had a lot of storms as well. So trying to, you know, make sure that the birds, because we're outside, right? So we're at the mercy of Mother Nature on that. As to when we are able to ship. And then along with my husband, we have a sheep operation. So right now we're just getting ready to wean lambs and move them all down to a pasture at our neighbors that we just started renting. So of course, when you start onto a new pasture, there's kind of like a lot of unknowns and walking fences and changing a whole lot of things. So we went and did a whole bunch of that today, and it's good to get it done and out of the way, but just a little stressful, a little busy.
And pheasantry, I mean, like, that's in Canada, you don't hear a ton about that. So I gotta ask, how did you get involved?
So it goes back quite a few years. My grandfather started raising pheasants for the township when my dad was quite young, and the person that we always would purchase the pheasants from, you know, by the time that my dad was a little older, we started custom growing for him, things like that. By the time that I was in my last year of high school, I actually moved down there to Elmer, Ontario, and did a full semester co-op. That was a little interesting, kind of moving out and starting work on your own at 17 years old. I think it was exactly what I needed. I wasn't a very good classroom student per se, very much so a hands-on learner. So it was probably one of the best decisions that I've ever made, was going forward and doing that. So we went ahead and purchased the business and rebuilt everything here at our home farm in Camlachie and moved everything. And that was in 2011 was our first year of hatching.
Wow. So talk about that decision-making process. I mean, I definitely thought I had everything figured out at 17, but I can definitely say how my brain works is a lot different than how it worked when I was 17. So how have things changed for you in that perspective? What go back to that decision and what you had to go through to be able to make that decision.
So I guess, farming with my parents was a really amazing thing, and that my parents were willing to take such a leap of faith. And I'm an only child. It's not like there was, if Sarah decides that this isn't the thing that she wants to do, the next child will take it over. No, I was the only child, and my parents were not young at that point in time, and for them to decide, okay, let's purchase this business, this is what our daughter wants to do for the rest of her life. I mean, that, I don't know if that was crazy or wonderful or a little bit of both, but I am eternally grateful for, them trusting me that this is what I want to do for the rest of my life, and for going ahead and doing that. So decision-making has been interesting, especially, trying to manage employees, being so young, not really having a whole lot of experience doing that was definitely, I don't want to say trial by fire, but I tried to do as much education as I could, with seminars and other things along those lines to really try and hone my skills. The one thing that actually really did help me a lot was I was lucky enough to win the Bob Ross C-Team scholarship, and going through that really, I don't think that I would be where I am today if I had not have been able to go through that program and learn what I learned, especially after my father passing away. My mother is absolutely wonderful, but my father was really the brains of the business, so it was kind of left to her and I to keep things going, which we did, and I'm really happy with how things are now. But C-Team definitely helped me massively.
And you talk about managing employees. Now, obviously, I'm not focusing on your age, but you came in at a young point in your life, and suddenly you have to manage employees that might be older than you. Do you want to talk about that dynamic and what sorts of, trials and tribulations you maybe had there?
So that was the thing. We had a lot of older employees than myself, younger, sometimes the same age. So it was really hard to, especially with the ones that were almost the same age, it was almost a little hard to delineate and, say, no, this is I would love to be your friend, but I also have to take care of my family farm, and I have to be your boss at some point in time too, right? So it was definitely, there were some trying moments, that's for sure, just, making sure that my voice was heard. And I'm perhaps not a typical boss or management figure, but that doesn't mean that I still don't make management decisions and need to be respected in those decisions.
Would you say you have any sort of, we often talk about leadership styles or management styles. Would you say there's anything that resonates with you?
I would definitely say I am more of a leader, innovator style when it comes to managing, which is a good thing. I think, if you don't have somebody that is willing to step up and take charge, then that can kind of leave things not unfinished, etc.
Mm-hmm. Yep, absolutely. Do you have you found would you consider yourself a risk taker then, I guess?
Oh, absolutely. It's so funny. I really say that I don't need to go to the casino and gamble because I'm a farmer. So especially, we're a non-supply managed sector, and you can mitigate risks, But at the end of the day, I mean, when you are the, what's the word I'm looking for? When you are your own marketing board, essentially, you do all your own marketing yourself, you do all of that, you deal with the customers directly. At the end of the day, it can really, really be a huge risk. We were very, very lucky that COVID did not treat our customers too badly, and that they were really able to hang on, and that things were okay in that sense. And as we move forward towards the fall season here, that's kind of what we're looking at, because that's when a lot of the pheasant hunting takes place. A lot of our customers are, saying that they're getting the calls that people just want to get back outside. People want to do things again. So it's looking promising. And on the lamb side of things, last year when people would go to the grocery store and they were not able to purchase meat and things like that, we really, really noticed that, okay, maybe this is a time where we should start doing some direct marketing. So we were able to sell. We also raise eastern wild turkeys, partridge, quail. We are part of the Ontario Chicken Artisanal Program. So we raise 700 chickens a year for that. So it's been really interesting seeing the new connections that are being made in consumers and where their food comes from. At least in our local area, we've really, really enjoyed being able to sell direct to consumer with lamb or with chicken, etc.
And what's the process like to keep yourself educated? You have to obviously stay on top of these things to understand how direct marketing and all these different ever-changing parts of the industry are going. What sorts of things do you do to keep on top of it?
So my biggest thing is Twitter. I absolutely love and adore Twitter. It's a really, really easy way for me to kind of keep, like you said, keep on top of things, to stay up to date. I really, really like that. The other thing is I love listening to Real Ag Radio on my way to and from daycare drop-offs. That is my go-to, and I really find that it's a really good education piece. So, but Twitter is definitely my go-to.
I mean, I like that you're focusing on the positives, because I feel like a lot of people talk about something like Twitter and they're like, oh, it can be a mean place. And yes, it can be a mean place, but we can get education out of a lot of things for sure.
Oh, absolutely. And I guess I'm more of a person, so you say that I'm very positive, but I'm more of a person that I would much rather go on Twitter and see people air their grievances, see people, say, you know what, I had a really brutal day today and this is what happened on my farm, as where you could go on something like Instagram and see people with a million filters and people perhaps not living or showing their real life experiences. And I'm not saying that people don't put their real life experiences on Instagram. That's simply just my experience and my takeaway from it. But I really like the realism of Twitter.
Yeah, absolutely. I completely agree. It's one of those things that you sometimes, you always talk about what you see on social media, and I'm one of those people that I'm like, oh, I'm not really influenced by it, but it's very easy to sit there and go, yeah, it looks like they did a lot more with their day than I did. So, yeah. So when we're looking at another part of coming into a business so young is organization and keeping on top of things. How do you go about that?
Oh, that's a great question. I'm really happy that you're not asking my husband that question, how organized I am. Honestly, I mean, I really do try and take a few minutes out of my day, whether it is, on the drive home from doing daycare drop-off or things like that, to kind of just mentally think about, okay, this is what needs to be accomplished today. This is what needs to be accomplished by the end of the week. What other things are coming up that we really need to think of? And then kind of by the time I get to the farm, it's like, okay, guys, this is what we got to do. This is what's on our list. Sometimes I'll do a weekly list. I am a handwritten list person by far. I really, really feel strongly about those. And, if you can accomplish everything that I put on a list in a day, you're doing fantastic, because I normally try and have too many things on the list so that nobody ever runs out of a job. Let's put it that way.
But the other side of that, I guess, is sometimes it can be discouraging when you have a long list and you don't get everything accomplished on that. How do you tackle that some days?
There's always another day.
Yep.
I had an old employee, and he would always say mañana, which I believe means like tomorrow. Or another day. So that's something that, we've almost adopted here is, oh, well, if it doesn't get done today, it'll get done tomorrow. Like, you obviously prioritize things and things that need to have happen immediately, but I almost try and give myself a bit of grace. I mean, we're trying to run 2 farming operations between the sheep and then the poultry side of things, and we have 3 kids, and maternity leave isn't a thing here. I mean, my daughter just turned 4 months, and then we have a 6-year-old and a almost 2-year-old, so it's a busy household, and we just do the best we can and try and get through as much as we can in a day.
And that's such a terrific attitude. I know as someone myself, I can get kind of wrapped up in my anxieties and things some days, so having people in my life that just say, tomorrow is another day, go out and do that fun thing today, it's important. It really is.
It is, and burnout is such a key thing, and there are certain times of the year where absolutely it is go, go, go. You start at 5 o'clock in the morning and you get home at midnight from taking chicks to the airport and things like that, and it can be like that for, several days in a row, just absolute nonstop. And you feel guilt because you still haven't gotten everything done on the farm. You feel guilt because you haven't spent enough time with your kids. You feel guilt because you haven't spent enough time with your partner and, keeping your marriage functioning. Mm-hmm. Things like that. And you just have to say, okay, you know what? If I get all this done, that's great. I will be able to make do or do that in, hopefully the end of the week or things like that. My biggest thing is a light at the end of the tunnel. What do I have to do to get to that light at the end of the tunnel, and what do I have to look forward to? So that's the big thing for me. Always something to look forward to.
Yeah, that is. I really like your outlook. That's terrific. So while we're on the positive note here, what's your favorite part about what you do right now? Of course you have your trials and your tribulations of your day to day, but what's the best part about what you do?
I mean, I love it all. I think I really, it's amazing when you can step outside your back door and you can see your crops growing. You can see, lambs out on pasture and doing so well. You can hear your pheasants or your turkeys or your whatever. I mean, I've really, the one thing during COVID and all these lockdowns and things like that, I have really been eternally grateful for the fact that we live in the area that we do and we have the space that we do, and we're not in an apartment building, or we have the area. And I mean, I just really love our farm and where it is, and I feel so lucky, and I try and not take it for granted. Even the area that we live in, I mean, we are, a 5-minute drive from some of the most beautiful beaches, and it's things like that, I don't know last summer if I even ever went to the beach once, because you just always forget that it's there. Meanwhile, there's people that drive and will spend a week at the beach because it's not something that they're able to just go do every day after work if they so felt like it.
Absolutely. It's tough. I get that too, because sometimes you can get wrapped up in your own kind of beauty of your backyard, and also as farmers, it's busy in the summer. Like we all, like to talk about going to the lake, but I don't know how much we actually make it to the lake. So it's difficult for sure. Now, another thing you've kind of had to tackle with, as I've kind of said, with employees is you've had to bring some over from different parts of the world. What's that experience been like?
Absolutely. So we really struggled in finding people that had knowledge. I mean, you can't go to college or university or anything in Canada for things like gamekeeping or game bird rearing that you can in that you can in the UK. So what we decided to do was we had made some connections with people in the UK, and we decided that perhaps hiring from there and bringing somebody over either on a exchange program or a long-term visa program might be the best option for us. So we did a exchange visa program to start off with. I believe it's an IEC visa with one employee that worked out really, really wonderful. We had talked about, doing permanent residency with him. He just missed his family too much, wanted to go home. And now we have another employee who is going to be going through for permanent residency. So just having that knowledge, not needing to spend all that time and effort into training somebody, just that little bit of knowledge helps so much. So we've really enjoyed doing it. It's definitely been a lot of work, especially with COVID, but well worth it.
So I have to ask, you go back to making all those, initial big decisions you did. If you could go back and talk to that girl, what would you tell her? Are there any recommendations if somebody else is in the same shoes you are in now?
So if I were to go back to like when I was, 17, 18, when we were just starting this, I would say to myself, and I would say this to anybody who works with their family, that working with family is so hard. Living and working with family is so hard. But at the end of the day, you never know when it's going to be that person's last day. I mean, I lost my father extremely, extremely suddenly. And, you can get so mad at people, and it can just drive you crazy. But, just really, really embrace the knowledge that you can have from other people. I'm not saying that you have to do it their way, but embrace the knowledge that they have. Ask the questions, learn, and, don't hold grudges. It does nobody any good, and it just hinders you all from moving forward. The farm, your relationships, everything.
Okay, that is some terrific advice. Okay, anything else you'd like to highlight about what you guys do out there, and anything you would like to, any recommendations you'd like to give to the younger generation?
Research. Do all kinds of research. I don't think that you can ever do enough research on things, decision making, whether it's speaking with people, whether it's, scrolling through the internet at 2 o'clock in the morning when you can't sleep. I mean, always go into everything with your eyes wide open. Put yourself in other people's shoes before making decisions. Think about how these decisions can affect you long term, 5 years from now, 10 years from now, 20 years from now, before you do go ahead and make the decisions finalized.
Okay, well, thank you very much for your time, Sarah. I have sure enjoyed the conversation, and I'm sure our audience will as well. So thank you very much.
Thank you. Have a great day.
Yeah, you too. And thanks for all of you that tuned into episode 2 of The Successors. If you have any questions, comments, feedback, maybe you know somebody who you'd like to put their name forward for an upcoming episode, who knows? Give me a shout. You can reach me on Twitter at Kara Oosterhuis, or you can send me an email, koosterhuis, and yes, that is KOOSTERHUIS. Thank my European relatives for that one at RealAgriculture.com. Until next time, stay real, and thanks for listening to The Successors.